Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you to be part of this first webinar that will be a monthly webinar called African Negotiate, a webinar from Yamalé Alliance. So today we'll have three members of the team, Megan, Awa, and Andrea, that will present themselves, and then we can start the discussion. So I will maybe start by Andrea. Andrea, you can present yourself first, and then I will give some guidelines before we start the discussion.
Sure. Thanks everybody for joining. We're really excited to see you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. My name is Andrea Capeyan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Yamalé Alliance and Yamalé Advisory, and I'm based in Lusaka, Zambia. I'll pass it to Hawa.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Hawaka. I'm based in Dakar. I'm the CTO for Yamalé Alliance and Yamalé Advisory.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Waters, the CEO of Yamalé Alliance, and I am currently, I'm based in Dakar. I'm currently in Ngapro, a little bit down the coast, but I'm based in Senegal permanently. And I think, Nadia, it would be great if you could also introduce yourself, because everything that anyone ever sees on us is because of Nadi. Her name is showing up as my name because I passed her my account, but she is a core member of our team as well. So Nadi, if you wanted to also introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Megan. So my name is Nati. I'm in charge of communication for Yamalé Alliance, and I'm based in Dakar, Senegal. So today's session will be exploring how strong legal system and negotiation capacity can move Africa forward, and building a equal footing. So while we'll be doing this discussion, we can feel free to open the mic when we want to ask questions during the Q&A session, but in between, please let us put our mic on mute so that it can help to avoid background noise. There is also a chat box option. So if you have a question and you don't want to forget it, please write it down already, and then we'll address it during the Q&A session. And stay until the end, because we have a discussion where you will be able to open your mic and ask questions. And the session is recorded just for our own notice. So you have the floor.
Before you start, Megan, can we talk just a second about how you can get French subtitles if you want on the
Yes.
Meet?
So there is a tool for transcription. You can see on your right down side of the screen dots, and when you click on it, you can choose the speech translation that you would like to have. So depending of the language that you speak, you can select English or Spanish, and then you can enable the translation for yourself.
Great. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're really excited about this because this is one of the first times that we are actually engaging sort of openly on Yamalé. We've been really busy at work since our founding in January. And so we thought we'd take the opportunity today to sort of go over who we are, what our purpose is, kind of the key topics that we're working on, or focuses that we're working on, and then give you a demo of something we're really excited about, which is a platform that we've been developing. And then, as Nadi said, open up for Q&A. So I'll go ahead and get started. Just to start off by saying that Yamalé, a lot of people ask us what is the name. Yeah.
I don't know if you can answer it. Can we hear Megan? No, okay. So I think we have some connection issue. So yeah, Andrea, maybe you can present what Yamalé, what we do, why Megan
Sure.
connects.
So it sounds like Megan's having a connection issue. Megan, join when you can. But I think we'll start with, what does Yamalé mean? Yamalé is a Wolof word that means equal footing. And the whole idea is an idea that Megan and a former partner of hers, Mohamed Kebe, who is the managing partner at Kebe, Jen and Kebe law firm in Dakar, Senegal, came up with, which is that Africa has the resources, the talent, the people to accomplish the goals, the economic, the development, the resource goals that it wants. It's just a matter of being put on equal footing with the rest of the world, right? So sitting at the negotiating table with the same resources as European lawyers, sitting at a government negotiating table with a Western government, and making sure that all of the lawyers there have all of the tools and resources that they need in order to negotiate for a better future for Africa. And so that's kind of where it started. I'll see if I can see Megan, so I'll see if I can turn it over to her and you can continue.
Thanks. I'm not sure what I missed or what you said, so I don't want to repeat too much. Sorry about that. My connection went out. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm sure Andrea touched on, I spent many years in this space. I worked here in Senegal at Jen and Kebe, which is one of the largest law firms here in Senegal. Mohamed Kebe, who's the managing partner of that, and I worked quite closely on some of Senegal's sort of biggest priority transactions, including the petroleum contract that was entered into with Woodside, and several other major extractive industries contracts. And so we, through those negotiations, realized that the terms were coming out great for our clients, which is always a good thing if you're a lawyer, but it wasn't necessarily the type of deal we thought the government should also be getting. And so while we did a great job negotiating on our end, we just wanted to make sure that there was sort of the same reciprocated negotiation on the other side. And I just want to say really clearly, this is not at all a criticism of government attorneys. Senegal particularly has some of the finest attorneys I've ever negotiated with. But the reality of government attorneys is it's overwhelming. A company comes into a transaction having already done research, planned their negotiations, planned what contract they want to get out of it for sometimes up to a decade before they even enter into a country. And so they're coming with an entire toolkit of things that they're ready to present, and unfortunately, that's just not the reality of government, of the type of government work. And so we do want to, as part of Yamalé, so this idea kind of came out of, why don't we start flipping the tables? Why don't we start using the same legal expertise that we have on our end on the other ends as well? So I'll get into a little bit about what that's played out to be as we develop Yamalé. But just wanted to give that background of how we kind of initially got our footing. So just I'll start a little bit with who we are and then look at our nonprofit, and then I'll pass it over to Andrea to look at what our for-profit is. And I say our nonprofit and our for-profit because we are actually a two-company entity, and that we have a for-profit and we have a nonprofit. So Yamalé Alliance is our nonprofit. Yamalé Advisory is our for-profit. This was an intentional structuring on our behalf, mostly because all three of us on the core team came out of the international development space, where we saw a lot of local organizations, particularly who were fully grant funded, and saw a lot of holes in that model. Particularly, I think a lot of us learned a hard lesson last year on what the holes are with that. And so we wanted to intentionally set up something that remedies that. At the same time, it's also because we do truly believe that there are tools and resources that not only we should be profiting on, but a large number of African attorneys and other African experts should also be having a forum to make some income off of. And so I'll let Andrea kind of explain that in more detail when we get to the for-profit. Our nonprofit, well, our entire entity, both entities are really built on this unapologetically African model. And what I mean by that, and I know that's a bit ironic coming from me as an American, but I am permanently living in Senegal. What we mean by that is we are really interested in only, for example, our staff will all be hired from the continent, either based here in the continent or a native to the continent. So we do have some diaspora who are interested in working with us, which we're very happy to work with. We're really interested we're really truly trying to make a model where we also accept African-based capital and funding, because I am of a firm belief that all the resources that you need are here on the continent. We have the human resources that you need, absolutely. Without a doubt, the legal talent is here. And also, I think capital's here. I think there's a lot more capital on the continent than people, give it credit for. I say African because I'm recognizing that, there are 54 different countries. One of the things that I realized working at the law firm here is that a lot of times law firms will rely, for example, if I'm in Senegal, I will often turn to a French attorney to sort of back me up or, provide the expertise. Same with British attorneys, American attorneys. We tend to sort of look outward and look for extra help. And Yamalé was really built on a belief that actually the talent is here, and there's no reason why, someone like Mohamed Kebe, who's my co-founder and the chairman of our board, should have to be reaching out to anybody. I mean, he has more legal expertise than anyone I know in Senegal, and he should be able to do every transaction on his own without needing that sort of added layer of support. And so we really are leaning into this Africa-led model and truly want to work with as many on the continent as we can as a result. And again, I'll let Andrea kind of explain how our for-profit is really looking to bring as many in. But on the nonprofit side, we have 3 key areas that we're working in. And the entire nonprofit is really built on this idea that law is the foundation of everything. And so there really isn't a piece of a country or a piece of society that isn't impacted in some way by law. And so we are focusing in 3 areas, but you'll see as I explain this how it's a bit connected to sort of everything within a country. So the first is government representation, which we've spoken about, essentially giving that representation on the other side of the table, and helping them in the negotiations of some of these high-stake deals. The second is community representation. The community representation piece is built on this idea that communities are also a negotiating partner. I don't personally view, and I don't think Yamalé views, communities as beneficiaries. We view them as asset holders. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you a great example of something we've been working on in some countries of the mining communities. So communities around mining work. And the idea that these communities are not just beneficiaries of a project, they're actually, the land is theirs. The mines that are on that land are often theirs. If you look at community laws that exist in many African countries, they're actually the true owners of all of that. And so it's bringing them to the table as an equal negotiating partner, the same way I would, Citibank or Goldman Sachs or an investor from another country. The same way I would bring them into the table, I think the community who owns the land should also be there. So we really want to provide that level of representation to communities as well. And I think you're going to see a lot of that from us. We've found quite a bit of interest in that space. And then the third piece of our nonprofit is system strengthening. Like I said, law is sort of the foundation of everything that happens in a country. And having worked in the international development space, we did a lot of system strengthening projects, meaning, we worked with governments to develop systems. We worked with, to meet certain targets in the health space, for example, or the food security space. But we are coming at this from Yamalé's perspective, from a legal lens. And we're working with governments to sort of do an assessment of where their laws and regulations are and aren't, and that, where are things super strong and maybe just need an enforcement mechanism? Where are things, not ever written at all? A lot of new technologies, for example, governments haven't actually written the regulations to regulate those spaces yet. And so making sure that governments are being able to keep up with that, and that laws and regulations in a country not only are written, but they're actually enforced and utilized and playing a key role in developing the country. So that's sort of our primary, those are our primary focuses within the nonprofit space. And with that, I will turn it over to Andrea to give a bit more of how that feeds in or relates to our nonprofit work.
Thank you, Megan. And yes, you can always look at our website to find more information. And if you're an expert in any area, we'd love to receive your CV through our website to help us with some of that system strengthening or any of the work that we get pulled into. We'd love to have your information so that we can connect with you if there's something in your country or in your region that you could support us with. I know that Eunice is calling in from Sierra Leone, Tambe is calling in from Cameroon, and Sedina is calling in from Senegal. Anybody else, if you'd like to share where you're calling in from in the chat box, we'd love to know just where we're seeing you from. So the for-profit, I think, is interesting, super interesting and very exciting. Hawa's going to give us a little demo after I speak a little bit about it. But as Megan said, we have the two entity structure so that in our statutes of incorporation, we will be dedicating a certain percentage of our revenue from the for-profit straight into the nonprofit. And so one of the cool things about the for-profit is if you engage with us at all or you utilize any of our services, you will be directly supporting the development of Africa through our nonprofit. And so that's kind of our circular model that we're trying to get into. And I'll go into the for-profit now. So we're developing a platform. The launch plan date is June 1st, which is super soon. So we hope you'll be able to see it shortly. But it's I would call it like a technology tool platform to create a community for African lawyers, African students, African small business, small, medium enterprises, and others who are looking for legal services. And so we have separate little sections. The first section is our law library, which is the one that we're going to debut June 1st. And it's going to be free. We've compiled as many laws as we could find across the continent. We definitely have laws from all 54 countries digitized, and they'll be available to you on our Yamalé platform. And it's something that, each individual country has done a lot of. Some of the countries are much more advanced in putting up their laws. Some are not online at all, but nobody's really compiled them all in one database where you could easily access them. And the cool thing is that the way that we've digitized them by text is that they're now AI searchable. And so one of the services we're going to be providing, which is like the second part of our platform, is that you'll be able to do legal searches of all of the laws. And so we're going to have a closed database that has all of our laws, and we're going to be able to search all of that through all of the new AI technology. And so a lot of the laws have been put online, if you can find them, as like PDFs. They're not very easy to use. They're not very easy to scan and absorb. And so this is one of the tools that we think will really propel lawyers into being able to do their work much faster. Like a lot of lawyers have this information and have been using it for many years, but they're not able to harness some of the new technology as well as they should be able to. And so we're hoping that our tool will allow them to do it. It will also allow law students easier access to some of the tools instead of going to a library and checking that out. It will all be available online. But we're really excited about just the combination of the law library and the AI service together. And in that way, as I said, we wanted to build a community. We're looking towards practitioners to be able to look at our law library and see what's missing, what might be outdated, and work with us to try and fix that through sharing of laws or sharing of information. Maybe eventually we'll be able to create like a forum on the platform where practitioners can discuss issues across jurisdictions. But I think it's going to be really cool, and you'll see when Hawa shows you. A couple of the other pieces, I think the one that I would talk about, or two that I would talk about, is the Yamalé Vault. The Yamalé Vault is where we're going to create resources, free and paid, at reasonable prices, where you can access all sorts of information, from tools, templates, guides, to courses narrated and provided by experts in African jurisdictions on niche areas that maybe, you know, your law firm doesn't have any experience in, or you want to start working in. And so we've already got a few people who are going to be creating content for that. And as Megan mentioned, we're trying to push over an ability of other African experts to have a passive income in their lives. So we're creating profit sharing agreements where we take a percentage to host your content on our platform, but you'll also get a large percentage to be able to create content. And so if you're a professor, if you're an expert, if you're a practitioner in a specific area, and you have courses, either recorded, you know, live courses, or you have written courses, like, we'd be happy to host that. And again, we want to create a space where people are coming for all sorts of information and eventually saying, hey, Yamalé, I really need this in my life. And we would go and create it and put it out there for everybody. Or, hey, I have this really great tool that we created at my law firm. Can you put it up? Yeah, that's great. We'll charge a certain amount and you can get a large percentage of that. And so really the sky's the limit for what we can put on the Yamalé Vault. But we think that it's basically going to be a foundation that we continue to build with all of the partners that we work with. And so again, if you have ideas of things you want to put on there, please reach out to us through our website or directly. We would love to host that. We're also going to have a law database where potential clients can search for vetted lawyers on our website. And so we're going to have a reference process for lawyers to submit their credentials and clients who they've worked with in the past. And if they're, you know, successfully vetted, we'll add them to the database in their specific business areas, and including the language that they're able to practice in, the, you know, country, the specific practice area. And people will be able to search that database. And so we're relying on our contacts and you all to help us find all of those great lawyers that exist in the countries that you work in, because there are some laws that make it hard for lawyers to publicize their own services, but we will be masking that information, as Hawa will show you, until people pay a small fee to be able to see the list of lawyers. And by masking that information, we're able to get around to some of the publicity regulations that prevent lawyers from publicizing their own services. And so we think that this would be a win-win situation for both parties, in that the lawyers will get more clients will be happy. And I think we're going to implement a rating system where clients can then rate that lawyer, you know, 5 stars for great services. And so all of that will just promote lawyers on the continent doing what they're good at better and with more people. And so that's going to be a really cool service. And then the last piece, which is not ready for a June 1st debut, is the AFTA passport. And we're working really diligently to make sure that we can list all of the non-tariff barriers that face people importing and exporting on the continent. I'm sure many of you have seen on different news outlets that it is cheaper to export to Europe for a lot of African countries than it is to export intercontinentally. And that creates, economic problems for everybody. It's just it's a loss of income for the African countries that are exporting, and it's a loss for those who then need to purchase from Europe the same stuff that was exported to Europe, or the United States or China or anywhere. And so we want to make it as easy as possible based on the current implementation structure of AFTA to figure out what you need in order to export to X country, and what are all the papers that you need to sign, what is going on at the border in that country, and how you can best negotiate and mitigate all the risks of that. And we hope to be able to unveil that pretty soon as well. So I think I will stop there. I covered a lot. Sorry about that. And see if anybody has any questions, or if we should move on to the demo and then open it up for questions.
I think the demo helps
Maybe the
demonstrate a
demo
lot of
would be
this. Yeah.
helpful, to see.
So I'll give you the demo,
All right.
and then we'll be
Okay.
happy to answer questions about anything. We really want to have a robust Q&A. And like I said, we're relying on a very interactive community engagement in order to understand what everybody's needs are and how we can support the legal and economic transformation of the continent. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. Okay, I'm sharing my screen now.
Sorry, Hawa, just before you start, you can share your screen, but while you are sharing your screen, we can do a quick poll to know how many people has already visited our website, yet or not yet. Please feel free to respond while you share your screen.
So you have to go to the poll section in order to answer the poll. I think it's a little purple square on the top of your screen. Anybody?
For now, we have 5 yes.
Good.
How I think you can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, so this is your preview of the Yamalé advisory platform. I am currently on the homepage, which really, I think, tells you about what this is all about. It is like our ID. This is what we believe in: law without barriers. Every African countries, every lawyer, every student should be able to access the law with ease. And then the law should serve businesses. So if you want to trade in another country, the law should be available to you so that you know what the requirements are in order to do business in that other country. So law without barriers, business without borders. If I scroll down a little bit further, these are like the items, the areas that Andrea described earlier. The legal library, which lists laws from all 54 countries, the AFTA passport that we talked about, the AI legal research tool that I will show you in a second, the Yamalé Vault, and the lawyer database. So there's a small description of them here, but then you can use the tabs on top to look at each section. Andrea also talked about how this is African built, African governed, and then the platform will be reinvesting funds into the nonprofit of the nonprofit entity. So just to show you quickly, here's the law library. You can see we have multiple filters, but what you have basically is a list of all the laws that we have collected. And maybe I should start by saying that I'm logged in as the admin person. So you will see a few things here and there that you won't be seeing once you start using the tool, right? But it is just a list of all the laws that we collected, and they have been organized by country and categories. So here you have the list of all the countries, all the 54 African countries, and then you have the categories under which these laws are under. And so this list will be growing, but right now it is, it is already a long list. And the other thing I want to mention is that in this database, we have the laws that are specific to countries, but we also have the bilateral treaties and multilateral agreements as well. So you will find, for example, all the OHADA laws in this database. So if you select a country, since we're based in Senegal, I'm going to select Senegal. Yes, you will see their laws, the country laws, OHADA, any bilateral treaty, and then also the multilateral agreements that they have. Let me show you just what a law looks like. I don't know, let me select dispute resolution. So if you come here, this one is it is in French, but just to show you what it looks like. So here you have the entire law on mediation and conciliation. You can scroll down, or you can use the table of content on the side to look at specific sections maybe that you're interested in. And we think that this is something that is helpful to small businesses, students, anyone who just wants to have access to the law. And this is this access is free. You just need to log in with your email address, and you can access the library. Andrea mentioned the AI research tool. So this is it. We have prompts that are already suggested here, but you may want to just try your own, have your own questions. So let me try something here to show you what the results look like. It may take a second here. Since I'm going to move this. While it does that, you will have, of course, a history of your research, of your chat on the side. You have a limited, you may or may not have a limited number of queries depending on the subscription you have, because the AI legal research tool is actually, you can access it for under a subscription plan. So here I just asked about Sierra Leone and their labor laws. For international companies, you can see the answer that it gives you. It tells you about the Employment Act and the key obligation for an international company. It tells you about the other things you need, the work permit act, sorry, and then the obligations that you have under that. So any laws that are actually from Sierra Leone related to companies wanting to do business in Sierra Leone are listed here. And then at the end, it gives you a list of the law, also a link to these laws that you can access. I will come back to the after passport. Just wanted to just show you also the other tools that Andrea mentioned. Here's the Yamalé Vault. So we have books, courses, templates, and guidance. You can just filter by those. But in general, right now, these are like the resources that are in here. Some of the resources that are in here. Some of them come at a cost, some of them are free, but you can see that we offer a lot of templates, sorry, at reasonable prices. And again, some of the resources that we will be posting here are free.
Can I jump in real quick, Hawa, for 1 second?
Yes. Sure.
So if you've been following us on LinkedIn, you'll see all the at-a-glances that we've created for all the countries. Those will all be available here for free. But I did want to stop 1 second and highlight a really awesome offering that we're excited to launch, and it's the Law Firm Development Package. And it has 46 different sections of templates and material about how to build your law firm. The idea is that we understand that the lawyers are good technically. They know what they need to know to succeed in court and in negotiations. However, some of the administrative tasks are much harder, and you might need special skills that you don't have. So a lot of these templates go through things like HR, tech capacity, cybersecurity, who we have our great partner Obehi, who will be working with us on that, financial management, publicity, marketing, like all of those things that you didn't learn in law school that are much different than what your technical specialty is. And so we have this incredible package that has a couple different tiers of offerings, but we are so excited to launch that very soon and hope that that will help strengthen the very many amazing law firms that exist on the continent, but give them the power to move a little bit further. And so I'll just stop there. Sorry. Thank you, Hawa.
No problem. Thanks, Andrea. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the lawyers database. So we want people to be able to access the best lawyers and in very specific areas, right, with very specific expertise. So this database is by invitation only. Lawyers who would be here will be lawyers we have heard about or know that have already proved themselves, but there will also always be a vetting process to add them to the law. So as a user, if you come to this tab, you select your country. I see that Senegal is already selected, and mergers and acquisition as an area of expertise. What you get is, the system will tell you that it found these two lawyers that are in Senegal with the expertise that you're looking for. But this is what you will see once you get here. It'll give you their initials, their area of expertise, the number of years of expertise, the countries they work in, the language, and then each search is, for now, it's we charge $5. So once you pay the fee, then it unlocks these contacts for the country and the area of expertise that you specified. So that's how the lawyers database works. So what we're hoping is that you will see that I'm just gonna click here real quick, and then you will see, I see some of these are repeated, but what you will see is like different law areas of expertise that are not necessarily that are not very common, or that you don't find a lot of in Africa currently, and that are very much needed. So then quickly on the after side, Andrea mentioned that this one is not ready for prime time, but I like to show it because we have made a lot of progress on it. It's just like a few things that needs to be finalized. For example, for each country, we are collecting right now the customs rules and regulations to incorporate for each of these 54 countries. But the process would be for you to enter the product that you want to export, to check if this product is qualified based on the product itself or its manufacturing, its packaging, it is eligible for the after tariff. It'll tell you the barriers that you may encounter, the savings you make, and then at the end, it'll give you a checklist of the things that you need in order to export these products to another country. So like in this example, we have someone exporting from Ghana to Nigeria. So what you will see here is a list of the things that are needed in Ghana, even before you export your product. You will have documentation requirements under AFTA itself, like the certificate of origin. And then you will have what the Nigeria customs and services will require of you before your products can enter the country. So very quickly, this is the tool that we have built in the past few months and that we are improving. We will definitely launch it on June 1st. But again, as Andrea mentioned, we are really trying to build a community around this tool. You will see a lot of disclaimers or like things we added, asking for people's input. Like she mentioned earlier, well, if you use a lawyer, you're actually able to rate the lawyer. We need to get feedback on the service that you requested. If you see a law in our library, and then you think that there's something more up to date or an additional annex that needs to be added to the law, you have an opportunity to do that. And even the AI research tool, you're able to actually rate the response that you received and provide feedback so that we continue to improve the tool. And then I'll stop right there.
Thanks,
Great,
Hawa.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
we have a poll to get the sense of all the tool that has been presented. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so while Natty's putting up that poll, I think you can see how this is sort of a lot of work and time and energy that's gone into this. Obviously, it's going to continue to develop as we develop, and we really do want this to be community built and developed. And so we would love input as frequently as possible. The more input, the better. Honestly, it makes the tools all stronger. So I think let's open up for Q&A. I'm sorry that took a bit longer than I think we thought would, but any questions that we can answer now? I will turn it over to whoever wants to come off the mic. And if you don't feel comfortable coming off the mic, please just drop a question in the chat box and we'll answer there.
Hey, can y'all hear me? Hey,
Yep.
first I want to say very nice platform and what y'all are doing. I had a question around, I've had, let me not say issues, but when searching for lawyers in different countries, for example, Kenya, there was multiple lawyers that I needed to do some work. And, it was kind of hard just Googling, trying to figure out which ones would best fit my needs. Are y'all going to have like any type of ranking systems, or would there be a way, I guess, to see which lawyers may have, say, more experience on the type of work I need to be done?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Obehi. And I think that's one of the frustrations we've heard from many people, which is why we put the lawyers database in. Yes, our goal is to have it broken down by as many categories as possible so you can get very specific in the kind of need that you are looking for. And then within that, as Andrea said, over time, people will rate them and rank them. I will also say, though, that the vetting process is going to be incredibly important to us. So this is not just going to be open to every attorney that decides they want to drop their name in. We will ask for references from clients, from other attorneys. We will do that search. We've already spoken to the Pan-African Lawyers Union that kind of works with all the bar associations. One of the key things for us, and this is me speaking as an attorney, is that they are registered with the bar association, that they're, up to date with their dues, they're in good standing as far as, continuing legal education or whatever the requirements are there. And so there will be a pretty extensive vetting process, which is one of the reasons why we won't fully roll this out, I think, until we have a number of vetted attorneys from different jurisdictions. But yeah, you'll be able to see the reason why, the way it's brought up, where you can see sort of a hidden details of each lawyer, allows you to see how many lawyers are within that category before you decide whether or not you want to get the full information and make that payment to us. So that's all kind of built into the system. I hope that's helpful.
No, that is. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carl. Nice to see you.
Yes, Carl Anderson calling in from the United States, where there's been a lot of talk. So congratulations to your initiative. Really appreciate it. A lot of talk among the think tanks about how rule of law, particularly in the African continent, needs to have additional resources, and it sounds like yours is it. This is congratulations. I used to work with Hawa at USAID, so anything she touches is gold. It's got to be. But as a former attorney myself, I'm curious about what's next. Jurisprudence, critical decisions coming out of superior or supreme courts or Cour de Cassation. How are you guys capturing that? If you are going to capture that, maybe there's a reason why you may or may not. Pleadings, how it works for attorneys who want to file actions in various courts across the continent. How is that going to be incorporated? Things like, as well, in addition to the pleadings, like rules of procedure, right? Do you envision this being kind of a litigator's vault as well? And then how are you integrating, maybe they might not be legal decisions, but nevertheless decisions, authorities coming out of ECOWAS, COMESA, or SADC? And I'll stop there.
Yeah,
great
those
initiative.
Are all great.
Wow, this is great.
Thanks, Carl. And those are all fantastic questions and essentially our future roadmap. So yes, we've thought of those things. Hawa and I actually just had this conversation with Mohammed last week. There are several options for how we're going to go about this. So we have, at this point, we've only put sort of the core business related laws online because when I got started on this, I kind of thought this was like, that wouldn't take us that long. Turns out many of the countries don't actually have them in one concise spot. And so finding them and collecting them, verifying them with attorneys, making sure they're up to date, took quite a bit of time. And so that's we decided to phase it. So phase one is these business laws. Phase two will be the jurisprudence. One of the things we spoke to Mohammed about last week, many of these things you can only get if you have a existing relationship with a gazette or with the official public publishing body of a country. And so, for example, in Senegal, Jeanine Kebe, the law firm, has an agreement with, they pay some fee every month to the Gazette, and then every decision, every major court filing, every rule procedure that changes, anything that comes out will get sent to them. And so in Senegal, we have that. And we'll build that in soon, hopefully. In Cote d'Ivoire, we also have that. We're building that in other countries. And so what that's going to take is us we're exploring two options. One is negotiating that with each individual gazette from each country, which you can imagine is quite challenging, or through attorneys who already have those existing relationships. But our bigger, we're also looking at sort of a continental level. So we have a close relationship with the ALSF, the Africa Legal Support Fund, which is out of the Africa Development Bank, which does a lot of similar work to us, but not this database. So we're trying to look at ways to work with them, with the AFTA Secretariat, with the African Union, to do this on a more continental level where we would have permission to get those laws directly from us and those decisions. Particularly jurisprudence is challenging. Different countries can handle it in different ways. And so, yeah, this is we're in that's like phase 2. After we launch this in June and we have the initial laws up, that's sort of our phase 2. And the litigators, I would absolutely love to have that online at some point. There's a lot of sort of, let's say, extension products that we would like to offer at some point in the coming, months or year. A litigator space would be one of those. For another example that one of our board members is quite interested in developing with us is health regulations. So to understand where the health, what the health regulations in space is in each country so that they can do some of the work in the health field. So just to give an idea of some of the extensions that we hope to add. But yeah, it'll be a process, and honestly, getting these final agreements with the official bodies will be core to that. We've left that to Mohammed and his so Jennings Keb is a DLA Piper law firm. They have quite extensive networks in the continent. He personally has quite extensive networks. We also have MOUs with several attorneys in different countries, and so we're working with them as well to sort of see how we can expedite this. But it's a step by step. But great question, Carl. Hi, Sadina. Can you please come back on Yamalé Alliance and what is included for the nonprofit? Yeah, so for the nonprofit, we're exploring different areas. Like I said, we'll do primarily government representation. And this is so, for example, the government of Niger is negotiating several mining contracts that we hope to start engaging with. We're kind of in the process of getting there with them. So providing them as they're negotiating with, Chinese, British, Australian, American counterparts, making sure that they have the necessary representation there. It's also helping them so for example, working on renegotiating mining codes, petroleum codes, different types of laws that have sort of a really legal foundation. We're working in that space as well with governments. Community representation, which I said, making sure that it's not just government and company at the table, but that communities are also there. So we're exploring options to do that through certain grants, but also directly with the communities. So there's some artisanal mining communities, for example, who have reached out for support. And so we're trying to work with them. And then for the system strengthening, this is an area where we really do need consultants and experts in different areas. I'll just give one example of something we're looking at in that space. Tunji, I don't think he's online, but he's one of our board members. He's in Nigeria. He does health commodities is his sort of specialty. And so what we're looking at with him is how to get the regional rules for export import better utilized, let's say. So for example, in ECOWAS, you have and actually, sorry, Carl, to your question on the regional bodies, that's like a top priority for us to get all of those. And that's an actually easier lift than the individual countries. So we are working on that as well. But ECOWAS, for example, has regulations on importing, exporting health commodities. However, Nigeria has tried to do that into other countries and found it actually that the individual laws from each country are inhibiting that in many cases. So working with the ECOWAS at the ECOWAS level to help negotiate some of those barriers and help make that free movement. Also doing an assessment of, for example, all the health regulations in a country, or for a great example is there's a lot of agri-tech coming up in countries. making sure that the right regulations are in place to make sure that those new technologies are not sort of getting out of control and so let's say circumventing the laws, and making sure that there is an actual body to do that. And then the profit, so that's our entire platform. So everything that's paid for on the platform, a percentage of that is built in that it will then go back into our nonprofit, and that will hopefully fund our nonprofit work. And the idea is that we'll look for grants at the beginning for nonprofit work and or individuals. So for example, government may be able to pay us a reasonable amount that they don't have the money to pay, a top law firm, but they do have the money to pay us, and we'll use top lawyers on a sort of pro rata or reduced cost basis. And then the rest of it, we hope to fill in with the for-profit profits. I hope that answers a bit, Sedina. Yeah, Andrea?
So two things I wanted to add, for Sedina. One is that also the nonprofit, when we're looking for lawyers to support any initiative or work that we're doing, we can go back to our for-profit lawyer database. And so if like that is kind of like a circular thing as well. Like the more people that we have in the database, the easier it will be to contact great lawyers from the continent to be able to do the work that the governments are asking us to do. And so if you know lawyers or you're a lawyer and you would like to be included, please let us know so we can start the vetting process. And a little bit more detail on the for-profit in terms of like the way that you can engage in that. We're going to have lots of different options for payment, right? You can have like a monthly subscription. You could pay for the AFTA tool once, like you're just curious about one import-export country situation, and so you would pay once for that, or you could have a day pass to have all of the services. And so we're trying to have lots of different ways to engage with our for-profit depending on what your needs are, so that we can best serve what it is that you might be looking for as an attorney or a small business. I keep saying small business, but I mean small or medium businesses.
And I know we're at the hour now, or past the hour. We can stay on for a bit longer if there's other questions. But I wanted to also, if you do have to drop off, just give a real thank you for joining us today. Please keep following us, particularly on LinkedIn. We do really want to engage as much as possible. So look forward to future things. Nadi has many things in the pipeline. And so stay tuned for that. We will have a podcast, for example, with African attorneys coming up. And some other really cool interactive engagement opportunities. And so please stay up to date with that. And I do, even though he's not on the line, I do want to also give a shout out to Patrick Mwangi, who's our web developer, who really has like gone above and beyond. And he's Kenyan. We've been working with him for a few months, and the credit goes to him in putting this platform together. So I would be amiss if I didn't give him a shout out, even though he's not on, probably because he's busy uploading lots of laws. Yeah, so we can stay on if there's any other questions in the meantime.
Yes, so thank you again, Andrea. Before I give you the floor, the last poll is to have a sense of who are interested to help us creating more content on the platform. So please feel free to reach out also by email and also to take the poll. Andrea.
I don't think I have anything else to say. I can't believe we talked for an hour. I'm so sorry. But we thank you for all of your time. And yeah, tell everybody about Yamalé. Like it's going to be a community effort to build it out more. And so we're looking to source your ideas and your content and anything else that you want to provide so that we can move everything forward together.
Thank you very much. So we'll have a session like that every month. We'll keep you posted for the upcoming one and the next one and the team. Thank you again. Okay. Mm. Okay, noted. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
Thank
have a
you.
great,
Bye.
great weekend to everyone. Bye, bye, bye.
Wellington, nice to see you.